Hello and welcome to another episode of Inspired Women Gathering. This is a show that talks about all things from life, relationships, spirituality, business, and everything in between. Women inspire me through their stories, their resilience, resourcefulness, tenacity, and the powerful movement that we make. I love connecting and having deep conversations, sharing with you, the women I am so blessed to know and who inspire me, especially as we navigate through this deep, unknowing time together. My name is Dixie Bennett, and I'm a soulful woman and wealth coach and healer, and I created this platform to highlight amazing women who I come across and connect with, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. So my next guest today is one of my friends. We've known each other for over 10 years. We met at an event like over 10 years ago. I think we were both starting on our businesses. So this is Trina Lo, and her topic today is about being yourself in business. So Trina is a modern day marketer at FreshInk Communications with traditional roots, grounding her marketing concepts based in one key idea. We all have unique gifts and messages, and they all deserve to be heard. Her 2 decades of professional communication experience is in advertising, magazine publishing, graphic design, social media, and personal coaching. They allow her to work easily with business owners of all sizes, types, and they can let their inner selves shine. Trina has led private workshops on social media and marketing for over 10 years and teaches business owners on various topics for the Government of Canada's self-employment program through Myers Norris Penny and Momentum. The key goal of FreshInk is to ensure her clients are heard, that their passions are released to the world, and their power is received by those who need it. Their success is her passion. So thank you so much, Trina, for being with me today. I always love our time together, and I can't wait to share with you, with our viewers. So, so why don't you tell us where in the world you're coming from today?
I'm coming from home, like most people, which happens to be in Calgary, Alberta, Canada right now.
Awesome. Yes, we are all, it's interesting being at home, running our businesses from home in this time. So why don't you tell me a little bit about, a bit about your story. How did you get into social marketing? Why did you decide that this was around that interested you, or what got you started in this path?
The social part or the marketing part?
Sorry, the marketing part. Yeah.
I think I like to say it was a bit of an accident, but I think you and I both know maybe there aren't too many actual accidents. So I was young and a little bit lost, moved to Calgary recently before I found my first job in magazine publishing. And it was very, again, it seemed like, accidental or coincidental, but I'd always wanted to do something creative. I honestly just didn't think that I was good enough to get into that field, and had strayed away from studying anything artistic because I just didn't think I was good enough at the time. And so I was actually studying optics. So to be an optician.
Wow.
Yes, that was a bit strange. And basically I had to find a practicum placement. And my resume wound up at Avenue Magazine somehow. It was a friend of the sales director and got into her hands, and I got this call from some guy, and he's like, "Do you know what Avenue is?" And I said, "No." I felt bad after, but I had no idea why he was calling me. And I actually immediately refused the interview offer because I was still trying to finish my school in my program. But the realization of what that career path might look like for me at the time wasn't as flattering as I initially thought. And so I called him up about 2-3 weeks later, and, being again young and maybe a little less polished, I'm like, "You still got that job?" And so went in for an interview, and they offered it to me right away. And then I wound up in magazine publishing somehow.
Wow.
Yeah. So from there, I spent about 6 years there. And loved it. Loved everything about it, every minute of it. I even loved the stress that came with it, and the deadlines, and it's exciting and fun and same but different. Pretty much every issue. And basically after about 6 years of that, though, you get a little bit antsy and itchy. And I said, I can do more. I want to do different things here. And there just didn't seem to be a lot of room to grow. And so I had a friend who went through the self-employment program that I now teach for. And she told me all about it, and I went, gee, that sounds really fitting. I mean, I'd like to learn about how to run a business properly. So
Was that for, sorry, Momentum or Myers Norris Penny?
I went through Myers Norris Penny's version of the employment program a long time ago now, and it was just great. I thought it was so valuable, and you know, this was a long time ago. Like I said, I mean, we weren't able to do our business plan research on a computer.
Right. Yeah.
To the library.
I know.
Yeah. So it was a while ago, but it was such a good program, and it really helped set me up to be a graphic designer at the time. And I started FreshInk Communications as a graphic design company. And as I moved forward through that, just growing the business and getting clients and doing all those things that you do, I realized that because of my background in magazines and having dealt with the clients directly, that I had a lot more experience on understanding why we're doing what we do. So really the marketing end of things, why are we putting it in this publication? Who are we talking to? What's the message? What's the goal? And just all those things came naturally to me because I'd been doing it that whole time without understanding the difference maybe between how some other designers worked and what I had as a background. So just kind of slowly evolved after that.
Wow. I didn't actually know that you started out in graphic design.
Yeah. So technically I'm a graphic designer by trade or by education.
Yeah.
I went to school to get a certification in graphic design after I left Avenue, just because I love learning things. I mean, I'm constantly learning something. I feel like if my brain's not actively learning something, it's slowly dying or maybe quickly dying. And so I'm constantly into something. And I went and decided to make it sort of more official because, of course, when you're, again, young and starting something new, you get a little bit of that imposter syndrome. Like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. What right do I have to go ask for money? And so I thought if I had that stamp and seal of approval and official education, that would make it easier.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, and I think we all, I mean, we all have to start somewhere with some sort of education, and then it just kind of takes off and morphs into there.
Right.
So so after graphic design, then when did you start feeling that there was a need for something more?
I'd say it was probably about 6 years into my business where I had spent a lot of time, because I came from a magazine and we did everything in-house. I mean, we had to be extremely responsible for how every single thing turned out. The shade of orange was wrong, we were in trouble, even though that's not something we can control, right? But so I knew print production better than most graphic designers did coming out of school later because everything was slowly getting more digital.
Right.
So I was I guess I built a bit of a name around town with all the big agencies that I could come in and I would sit there if they wanted me to, and I would do the work, but I would understand how to do it for print. And it was, I didn't know how to do it any other way, actually. And so when you design for print, it can easily translate into digital, but it does not work the other way around. So I had contract after contract after contract. I don't really remember ever having more than a couple of weeks break in that whole 6 years.
Wow.
So it was.
And how did you get those contracts? Were they just referrals or?
A lot of word of mouth. I mean, the time that I spent at Avenue, we did have a lot of different suppliers and agencies that would feed, advertisements into us, or we'd work with printers for different things. And once the word got out that I had left and went on my own, I got referrals all the time because I think it was because I really love to learn. And so if someone came to me, a printer came to me and said, this isn't right, or we need you to do it this way, I don't think I've ever said, well, yes, it is. My response would always be, oh, really? What did I do wrong? How can I make it better? I just wanted to learn more and more, and who better to ask than printers? And so anything they would share with me, I would absorb it, I would play with it, I would master it and make sure that it was the way that they needed, because they were also my clients. That's how I felt about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have different levels of clients. That's a powerful realization.
Yeah. They were my referral partners, really. So, and it didn't even really come from there. It was just like, oh, there's something I don't know. Great. Share it with me. Tell me. And it was exciting for me to learn new things, because after that much time in print, you sort of start feeling like you know it all. and it gets a little bit boring, honestly. But that's how the marketing stuff came about, is print really hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot. And so we got deeper into the why. Why are we doing this? What other mediums are there to play with now that web is a thing and everyone wants a website now? So I did study some web development while I was studying my graphic design certification, and it was really, yeah, it was an eye opener. It can still, the code is actually the base level code is the same. So it's just great to have that foundation to say, oh, I understand what you're talking about, even though I don't sit around and build websites all day long. But yeah.
Well, I think too, when I was taking my marketing management training at U of C, it was just at the time where, we're talking about branding, and we're talking about, just all traditional marketing. I always feel like I was always kind of behind the curve. It was like social media just started coming out at that time, and they were kind of teaching it, but they didn't really know what to teach.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I finally threw out a lot of my stuff, just cleaning stuff out, and I was going through the notes, and I'm just like, wow, it was just like the beginning of Facebook, the beginning of Twitter, beginning of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And nobody really knew what to teach about it, but we knew this thing was coming in, right? And especially social marketing, social marketing is such a different world and platform right now, but I think the same principles to general marketing is still apply, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where people get really confused. They think because you're online, somehow you have to be different, you have to speak differently, or the customer, the consumer is different, and it's not. We're still literally talking to the exact same audience. Maybe a few extra, young people are online, but maybe not. And it's just going back to that foundation of, can we be authentic? Can we be honest? Can we be helpful? Is our product or service helping the consumer? If it is, then you'll just wind up attracting the right audience if you really think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it.
So what are some things that, especially now, like we're, the reality is we're in a time that has never been in our generation before.
Right.
We are in a time where I do feel like a little bit Star Trek-y, where we're just like zooming in and out, connecting with each other. It's kind of like they're in the room.
Right.
Maybe, moving towards that holographic experience, or where we actually get to get beamed into each other's homes, how cool would that be? But with, social media now, so what could be some tips or some things that people can start looking at that they could do right away, because it's so overwhelming, because I know for myself too, I use social media, but I haven't really used it for my business, because I've still been in a lot of traditional places of going out and speaking, and that where I speak is often where I get clients. So right. I really haven't gotten a lot of clients online, except for my, search engine optimization piece, with my website, versus, really getting social and building that traction. I'm seeing everybody jump online, and they're just kind of fumbling, and they're, aggressively trying to sell because they're out of fear, versus right. just really knowing who their audience is and why. So what might be just a couple of tips for people right now to kind of maybe help them slow down a little bit and get right. some bearings, so that they can actually implement something right away.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said slow down, stop. This is not if you don't slow down first before you get really ramped up, it's going to be a fast race downhill, and it's not going to be good for your business or your brand in any way. Really, right now, it's about reconnecting with your audience where they are today, because if you know who your clients are and your potential clients, you have a pretty good sense of what they might be going through, and it might be different than what you're going through, what I'm going through. I don't have 6 dogs running around the house and 5 children, trying to pull at my pant legs while I'm trying to work. And I have to be very, very conscious that that's other people's reality right now. And not assume that they even want to try to work on their business at this moment. We don't know, right? So I think it's really making sure at this moment we're not just putting out noise for the sake of putting out noise. We're not regurgitating the same message. We are here for you and we care. And Yes, of course we do. I would hope that we all believe that, but
Mhm.
how can how can my company help you right
Mhm.
now? Is there anything that I could do, even if it's you just going, you know what, all of this online grocery ordering has got me stressed out? Because when I first started ordering groceries online, I didn't like it. And this
Right.
was way before this situation happened. I went,
Mhm.
yeah, but I don't get to choose my apples.
Right. I know, I actually think about that because I'm very energetically connected.
Yeah.
And when I do go to the grocery store, like I literally scan for my food, right? So I
Right.
always ask for the most vital food. And I guess, I haven't ordered groceries online yet, but and that's one of the things I do think about. It's like, well, what kind of food is going to show up? But I also trust that I put the intention out in the energy of abundance that I will receive the most beautiful and vital food for the highest and best good.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are real things.
These are real legitimate things, and I live in a condo with some of our owners are quite senior, and then
Mhm.
we have a private Facebook group that I started, which only a few of them are on,
Yeah, of
but at
course.
least some of the board members are on there. And I said, I'm less likely to be affected by this, I mean physically, than some other people, especially the elderly.
Mhm.
So if they need help in any way, please spread the word that not only can I go get them stuff in cases of true need, but I could show them how to use their phones and get everything they need so they
Mhm.
don't feel trapped and they
Right.
don't feel as isolated as they are. And
Mhm.
that was just something I could do. And if you do it for a neighbor, if you do it for a
Mhm.
friend, why
Yeah,
wouldn't you do it for your clients?
absolutely.
Right. So I think that's where we're again, I've been watching this happen in small business for 20 years.
Mhm.
And it's really about not putting the hat on suddenly that I'm here to sell you something.
Yeah.
You're allowed to sell things, we all are, and that's how
Mhm.
the world, moves and the economy moves. But let's not get let's not forget who we really are, and let's just like ground ourselves down here at the same place and say, first of all, how are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
are you okay? Because I think a lot of people assume that certain types of people are okay, and they
Mhm.
forget to ask. I had that happen actually twice in one day. So it stuck out in my mind quite a lot. And unfortunately, they were honestly trying to sell me something that I didn't want. And
Mhm.
they didn't ask if I was interested, and they made assumptions that I was perfectly fine, like I always am.
Yeah.
And I got extremely offended.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was still polite about it, but I just let them know because I know these people. I know
Mhm.
that their intention was, I think it was good, but it's just like, you didn't even ask me how I'm doing.
Mhm.
Really?
Mhm.
It's kind of a situation we're in right now. So
Yeah.
I think
No,
that's got to be the first question you ask anybody right now.
yeah. How are you
I mean
doing?
it. Yeah.
Well, and that's been one of the values in my business. I mean, it's my whole life has really been just around relationship building. Like that's just been kind of a natural gift, I guess, that apparently comes easy to me. But I never thought about it. It's just connecting with people, right? So it's just that connecting with people and meeting them where they're at.
Mm,
That's part of the relationship building and part of the conversation.
absolutely.
One of my passions right now is teaching people how to have conversation, because I
Ah,
often find, and Trina and I are both master networkers, I would say. We have this conversation, right? It's just that again, it's people are always coming quick to throw in a sales pitch versus having a conversation of who are you and what do you offer, and or like what are you doing in the world, like what are you passionate about.
mhm,
And it doesn't matter if you're networking in a group of people. I mean, networking is networking. Everywhere we go, we're constantly networking, right?
mhm.
We're constantly having conversations with people, whether it's the cashier person at the store to the gas attendant, or to somebody that you are in a business circle with. um, One of the conversations I had in my mastermind group the other day, we were talking about circle of influence,
Mhm.
and like how are you connecting to people, and people like, well, if I can't go networking physically going out to something, where can I go, and how can I connect with people? And
Mhm.
I'm just like, go to your network, just
Oh,
start connecting with people and saying, hey, we haven't talked in a while. I'd really love to connect. Um, and just kind of start from there. So I know for you, so what's some advice too about, how to, or your opinion or ideas about people connecting in a different a different world of networking?
I'm so happy that this has come to the forefront. I'm not happy about how, obviously, but
Mhm.
that I'm actually an introvert. As much as I love to network,
Well,
right?
all my friends are. We're all introverts,
Yeah,
and we
I'm
all love each other.
a huge introvert. I love being at home.
Mm-hmm.
I love being by myself. Not that I don't like being with other people. That's not what introverts are, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm really comfortable being by myself. And
Absolutely.
so when I feel like it makes us a little bit different in that when we do, like, introverts go out and network, it's almost like we have a slightly different reason for going. I'm not really there to energize myself. I'm there to add to the room. I'm there to make it better for everybody else if I can in any way, by being funny or helpful or whatever it is. And that's really just different. So I've often tried to meet with people either over the phone or online instead of driving halfway across town in a snowstorm. And said, I personally find it less distracting to really connect with somebody over the phone. Because
Mm-hmm.
my last in-person networking coffee was just me and one other person I hadn't seen in a long time. We ran into each other. We said, we should really catch up and go for coffee. And I went, yeah, that's a really good idea. And so we went to a local coffee shop. It was really loud. He couldn't hear me. I was trying to scream talk the whole time because my voice does not carry. And it was really distracting. And I just would have been so much happier over the phone because we could hear each other and we could be really connected in the moment through voice and energy versus that the physical things around us can be really distracting, especially when other people are there. And
Mm-hmm.
I love connecting. Like when you and I get on the phone, it's probably why we don't talk on the phone as often as we do, because it's usually hours, right? So, because we can just get right into it, and then it's like, okay, we should go, and then another 30 minutes
Yeah.
goes by. And I just feel like a lot of the time, if you've even had one brush with somebody in person, then having a phone call to follow up is even better.
Yeah.
And the only issue, if you want to call it that, with networking online with cameras on is that, right, you'd have to wear some sort of pants. Well, or dress, or
You don't always have to wear the pants, but you
you
definitely.
don't. But I'm wearing shorts. I'll fess up right now. I'm wearing shorts. But I would rather focus on the conversation and
Yeah.
really maximize our time, because we could probably fit in 3 really good phone calls in a day versus 3 in-person meetings driving all over the place and worrying about buying coffee and all of those things. So go,
Yeah.
yeah, reach your network.
I think too, it's interesting because one of the, I do have a brick and mortar business as well. And I have some client, but I've had quite a few clients online over, the last few years, and I always had a dream of taking it more locationless.
Yeah.
And that has kind of come to fruition. And then, I was traveling quite a bit, and then so I have a little bit of that 50-50, but I also have clients who are so, like, I serve people all over the world. And so I've been doing Zoom. This is not a new thing for me. I've been doing online. I've been doing phone sessions with people. And sometimes I have clients that don't even want a physical session, and I just do a distant session for them where, I send them a huge detailed report of everything that kind of went through, and then we talk about it after.
Right.
So it really depends on what we're working on. But some people are having a hard challenge. They don't really want to go online, and this is something I've heard from some of my clients too. They're like, well, there's too many ears around. I don't really, I'm not comfortable
Mm-hmm.
conversation with you. And so especially for those people who have been face to face, and how can we, I don't want to convince them, right, obviously, but it's just like, what are some things that maybe we could share with them to help them get online a little bit more, instead of, because we are definitely being pushed into a new world.
Yes.
Where that tactile, face to face, it's going to be very different when we come out of this.
Mhm.
What might be some of your advice or tips around helping people deal with that for small
I
business
think the
owners?
people, yeah, the people that don't like to be online have to remember that they don't have to be.
Mm,
It's a choice. You
yeah.
can definitely choose to wait this out and see what happens, but we
Mm,
could also choose to experiment while everyone's learning together. And,
mm.
right? I mean, I've
I love
already
that.
learned,
Choosing to experiment together.
yeah,
Yes.
it's so much fun right now, in my opinion. As you know, I hate being on camera. So, but there's a time and a place, and if you
Mm-hmm.
prepare, I feel like if you can prepare for online networking just like you did offline networking, because I actually still teach networking at Myers Norris Penny self-employment program, and I did our
Mm-hmm.
first online session, which was really different because that workshop was created for being in front of a room, and it
Mm-hmm.
was very experiential. So it was
Right.
stand up and do this and do that and move around and
Mm-hmm.
enter the room. So it was a very different type. I had to adjust very quickly, but the same rules apply. If you're going to interview someone, you're not going to send them a Zoom link randomly for
Mm-hmm.
them to pop on and hope that they are dressed, right? You're going to prepare them and say, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this. Are you interested? Here's when, here's how. And if we can do the same preparation, which is really just making sure that we're feeling comfortable with ourselves that day and getting as comfortable as we can. Make sure you have a snack before you go on, make sure you have water, those same things. I mean, whenever, I don't know about you, I'm sure you do this naturally, but whenever I go to teach a class the night before, I make sure that I'm really, really centered. I do
Mm-hmm.
an extra balancing set of chakra clearing, and I just make sure that I'm ready because I am now there for them. It is not about me, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not about my performance in front of the classroom, but it's about how they received it and did I get the message through properly. So I think if we just go out there again for the purpose of helping other people first,
Mm-hmm.
we can reposition ourselves and stop worrying about how does my hair look and how does this. It's how can I make sure that you hear me so that you get benefit out of our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and this is the message I keep hearing, especially in you and I talking today, is just, how can I help others first? Right?
Yeah.
Always coming from that place of,
It takes the pressure off too, in my opinion, because I don't think a lot of people naturally like to sell.
mm-hmm.
I want people to
Well,
want
and it's
to have.
not just selling, but it's also helping people to get online. Like, how do we help our customers get comfortable coming online? Because I know for myself, and I've said this before, like video has not been where I want to spend my time. But over the years, as I've had to use it for my clients, right, working and connecting with people across the world, and I've done lots of online programs too where we naturally jump on Zoom. And
Mhm.
even when I was in corporate, like we were using Skype, for
Right.
corporate interactions with a lot of our international sales teams and that kind of thing. And it was horrible. We never had any video conferencing technology. And this is only like 10 years ago,
Right.
So there's definitely an easier way. And now it's just a click of the button. We've got Zoom, there's so many other platforms that are coming in. Schools are being called to use different things. There's Google Hangout. There's a whole list of different options. But I'm just curious to know, like, especially with clients, to get the clients, because you're right, their landscape in their homes are completely different. They
Mhm.
don't, especially business owners
Yes.
and people who, and this is something I've had where people are like, I love to come see you in person because it's that sacred, safe space.
Right.
Right? So, and that's the part of going somewhere, right? Is you allow and hold that space. How
Mhm.
can we get people to feel that in their homes?
I think
Um,
it's definitely a matter of helping them prepare and educating
right.
them, because
Mm-hmm.
there's one or several places that people new to online anything are going to have fears about, and one of them is going to be the technology itself and
Mm-hmm.
who's listening. And I feel like that's probably the easiest part to teach people. You can
Mm-hmm.
take screen captures. I mean, for even some of our social media clients today, I still have a printable PDF that you can print on your home printer, 8.5 by 11, sized appropriately so they can print it out and
Mhm.
have it in front of them, because I know they're not technical people. They need the paper. They need to feel that and let it anchor and ground them. So
Right.
I think we can set, I'm pretty sure most people have email.
Mhm.
So we can at least say, hey, you know what, you're not comfortable with this. It's actually a little bit new for me too. Why don't we practice together? Why don't I tell you what I know first? Because I might just be a couple steps ahead of you.
Mhm.
Send them the information through a PDF or whatever medium they're comfortable. Maybe you talk to them over the phone
Right.
while you're doing your first session setup, and you walk them through, because once basically Zoom is set up, downloaded on your computer, it's pretty easy to launch again, so
Mhm.
you wouldn't
Absolutely.
need that. And then it's a matter of saying too, like we just did this for fun the other night. We were actually trying to host a karaoke party.
Awesome. Yeah.
But we didn't know how the technology worked. So my
Right.
friend made the best suggestion. She says that I just want to lock it down to no more than 6 of us so we can figure this out together.
Right.
And that was the best thing to do, because we all knew why we were going. We
Mhm.
all knew that nobody knew what was going on, and we're all fumbling around the whole time, and it was hilarious. But
Yeah.
we at least recognized that, okay, this is a little bit harder than we thought, and we're
Mhm.
going to have to go away and do a little bit more homework.
Mhm.
And that's probably, I think, the biggest marketing slash business slash even personal lesson is always, just because you want it done in one session or this amount of time doesn't mean it's possible for you.
Mm-mm. No, it's never, I always tell my clients, it's never a one-time session. It's always, it's the peeling, right? That we have to go through the layers and the levels. You have to build a foundation,
Mhm.
right? So whatever it is. So I like going back to what you said earlier, that, if we could all choose to experiment together and
Yeah.
be curious, I think that's definitely a huge takeaway for me from this conversation. I hope it is for others. I want to kind of go back to, so, because I know that you worked in print. I know you worked in magazine, and you moved to online. But through your journey, and I know you and I have been a part of different groups and that kind of thing. But do you have any like mentors, or any one in particular person that kind of came out to you at any pivotal points or times of transition that kind of mentored you or helped you to move through life a little bit easier,
I really
or
feel
that
like
inspired you?
I think I picked up so many little lessons from different people. I don't feel like there's one pivotal person.
Hmm.
This is going to sound interesting, but I think that we are the pivotal people that
Mm.
choose to take what's in front of us and really do something with it. So, I mean, I could go all the way back to when I was really, really young and worked at A&B Sound, if you remember what that is.
I do, yes. The place
um,
to go.
yeah, so when you bought records and tapes and
Yeah,
things like
and
that.
CDs and cassette
Yeah,
tapes and
yeah, it was really just when I
VHS.
first moved to Calgary. It was a part-time Christmas gig, and one of the, yeah, a couple of situations then. One of the senior GMs, and these were really huge stores, so they had like 17 managers and these
Mhm.
big wigs come booting around once in a while. And he came up to me, really calm, very friendly, and I don't remember his words, and I wish I could. I've been trying to remember for years, but he basically told me that I was too aggressive.
Mm.
And I went, I don't even remember feeling aggressive.
Mhm.
I So he really he just opened my eyes, and
Yeah.
he said it in such a way that I could absorb it, because it wasn't offensive at all, and he wasn't scolding me or anything like that. And I just went, oh, okay. So I really thought hard about how I speak to people,
Mhm.
and really started repositioning from that point on as to, what is it that I wanted you to hear? Because if you heard me being aggressive and that wasn't my intention, I just wasted my own time. And then the intention of sharing whatever with the other person just didn't happen. So I really slowly took a step back. And then this happened again when I was at Avenue. I was actually sitting beside the owner slash my boss, and we had really huge, long space desks, and he was ways away from me. And I said his name out loud because I wanted to ask him a question, and he kind of jumped.
Mm.
And I went, oh, is that the effect that I have on you? Like, why did you jump? And then I started thinking about it more and more. And he was out of the office a lot during that period of time. So when he was in the office, I need a signature right now. I need you to say yes to this. And I was, yeah, definitely getting aggressive with him, only to get my job done and to get my job done for him. But I didn't realize that that's what I was doing until he jumped. And then I went, oh, I don't want him to feel like that around me. And so I really consciously, again, took that step back and went, how do I work on our real relationship so he knows where I'm really coming from? So those were two really big things that just said, man, and I'm still aggressive, let's face it. I'm going to feel a lot more aggressive than the average person who swings the other way and is really overly concerned about what people think. So they purposely really pull back. And I'm just trying to get something done sometimes to the point where I'm just too forceful with it.
Well, I think, and I can so relate to you on lots of those things too, right? And I think, and I've changed aggressive to just confident, you know, because I think there can still be a softness, and that's always something that I've tried to focus on, is bringing in relationship, right? So how can I connect and communicate with this person? But I can be a train. I know that about myself, and I'm very aware of that energy, because I get into the let's get it done mode, right? I don't know if it's the farm girl in me or just the hunker down, get it done kind of attitude. It's just like, well, let's go, let's get it done. And there's not a lot of emotion in there. And, you know, it served me very well, you know, in corporate, because it is an environment that's very fast. Let's get things done. There's not a lot of room for emotion, but we do often forget to bring in that human emotional component of, you know, softening, you know, softer, they call it softer skills, but it is, to me, it's strength, right? It's strength to be able to come in it and just have that softer connection, communication, versus like the forcing of let's just get it done. Right. And I think that's a big part of the new way. To me, it's the feminine pathway to prosperity is what I call it. But it's the a softer connection of, you know, bringing a bit more of that emotional part of it. And especially as women, like, yes, we're resilient, we're resourceful, we get things done. And sometimes it feels like the train, you know, and I feel it when the train's left the building, like I'm on it and it's hard to stop. But I have really been focusing on bringing more of that emotional, the softness into it. And that's part of the feminine way of being. It's about being instead of the forcing and the doing, right? So things just allow and happen a little bit softer.
I noticed something really funny when you said train. All the letters in train are in my name.
Ah, yes. Well, and this is another topic for another day, but I'm gonna have a friend who will be interviewing, and she talks about the soul of our name, right? So we actually have the numerology in our name. And Trina, train, yes, very much. So even the T is it's a very structured T, right? So I do believe, you know, there's so many modalities and things out there that, you know, teach us about ourselves, but it's very much, you know, so how do we soften that? So the Trina, right? So how can you bring more feminine into your beingness? That'd be an interesting discovery.
It takes a lot of work. I've been working on it for a long time. I think that I don't want to say naturally, but who you've always been or who you have been will sometimes creep back out. And maybe that's okay. Maybe I need to be that train sometimes and get things done. And then there are other times when you don't. So I think it's just recognizing who you are being in that moment and saying, is this who I want to be?
Right. Well, I think, and there's different aspects of the train. Maybe we are the engine, right? We're moving through, we're cutting through the snow, we're plowing, we're, you know, or sometimes we're the passenger and sometimes we're the caboose, right? So I was just playing in the different aspects of that. So, so thank you for that. Yeah. You know, and I think lots of people can relate to that, because there is, you know, the aggression, being aggressive, and it can appear very short. It can it can make people kind of jump out of their skin. Right. So it's just an opportunity to check in with ourselves. But yeah, I think we need to change aggressive with confidence.
Right.
There is an energy of confidence in that, right? It's just like, well, we need to get this done. We're not gonna, you know, and I know that that's one of the things I love about you. When she tells me the truth, right? You tell me the truth. right? And I'm a truth teller equally. And some people don't always want to know the truth. They don't always want to hear it. And I'm sure you might have this too, but I have people who are like, you know what? I know Dixie's going to tell me the truth, so I guess I'll ask. Or
Yeah,
if they don't want to do
I
this,
really,
they run away. What's that?
I really appreciate it when people say, "I know you'll tell me the truth, so here's
Yeah.
my question."
Exactly.
Because that tells me we have a real relationship, and they value not only that I'll tell them the truth, but they value the opinion behind it. So that's nice to. It's nice.
So what keeps you motivated? So how do you what keeps you going during your day? Do you have any daily routines that you like to implement, or during the morning, afternoon, or evening, or anything that helps you keep on track and keeps your vibrations high?
Well, I know that it's not a lot of health officials agree with this, but coffee is real. It's necessary. Sorry, I don't care what anybody says. I have tried not having
I love
coffee.
coffee.
But outside from that, I think it's for me, I'm lucky enough to have created a space where I don't have to get up at 7:01 every day. I don't have to, my best days are when I don't set an alarm, which is I hopefully most of the time. And I'm not jolted out of bed, and I have that time to just relax, slowly wake up, and I actually do morning meditation before I even get out of bed.
Nice.
Yeah, that really helps keep me centered and grounded. And then it's just making sure that you do all those other things that the health professionals do tell you to do, like drink water, and try to do that proportionally. So I make sure that I get a lot of rest. I love sleeping. I've always loved sleeping. Some people feel like they're missing out when they're asleep. I don't at all. I love being asleep. But I think that's just checking in with yourself throughout the day, however, whatever that looks like for you, and making sure that you really plan. I mean, I've been joking for years that exercise never happens because I don't actually put it in my day planner. I don't put it in my calendar, and therefore I don't do it. And so if you even write lunch, eat, drink water, because you should be checking in to your calendar, I think, throughout the day, because I mean, you've got screens all around you and things pinging at you, and you can get derailed so easily. And it's just a matter of saying, what was my intention for today? What was I really wanting to do today? Remind yourself to keep going back there. And sometimes that's even just, I have Post-it notes all over the place. And sometimes it's about writing that Post-it note just for that day to say, this is the one thing that is really important to me today. Let's stay focused.
I love that. Do you believe that spirituality and business go together?
Yeah, I think they have to, because your energy, your consciousness, however people like to phrase that, it is who you are. So how could you not be a part of your own business? That doesn't make any sense to divide them, to me. Again, however people need to phrase that so that it makes sense for them can really make a difference. I don't know if you're a Marvel movie fan at all.
Oh yeah.
Doctor Strange and right? Just, if it offends your sensibilities, then instead of calling it spells, then you can call it something else, right? So for me, it's just spirit energy, just who you are will absolutely go into your business, and it will be felt on the other side through everything, through things as hard as your branding and your logo and your color choice. Your energy and your decisions will be felt through the other side. So I don't think there's a good way to separate them, even if you try to.
Absolutely. Well, and I find a lot of people who do try to separate it, and that's, it's intention is such a huge game changer. I know, even listening to Oprah, right? So Oprah sets clear intention. She has been for years, to, even her guys who would pitch shows and stuff. She was teaching them, if you don't have a clear intention, don't even bother. Right? Because there's no energy behind it. You're just wasting my time. Yeah. I can't quote those words exactly, but it's that intention, I think, is totally behind everything. And inspired inspiration is what I call it, where it's just kind of like this aha. It's like that spark of interest, and then you bring it in, bring it into your work, into everything that you're doing.
Mhm.
All right. So, any favorite books or anything that you can recommend, especially around marketing, or anything that you kind of like to pull on for inspiration?
A couple really. I mean, the 4-Hour Work Week isn't about marketing, but
Mm-hmm.
I think I read that, or I listened to it actually a long, long time ago, and it's always made sense to me to say, yeah, but just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean we should keep doing it this way. That was the big message behind that book for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always looked at things just differently and went, yeah, but why? You know? Fortunately for my parents, I was not like that as a child, but but as an adult, I'm constantly going, but why do we do it that way? Is this the best way? And then making it work better for yourself or others is a big one. But I'm a huge, for marketing books, I'm a huge Daniel Pink fan.
Yeah.
He's, yeah, really just got some really smart, really clear ways to explain how people behave around marketing. And the first book I read of his was all about the physical nature of things,
Mm-hmm.
and even having a tie rack too close in the wrong spot in the aisle would make people not buy the tie because it was awkward. It wasn't enough space for them to feel comfortable and browse.
Right.
And the whole what do you call those scanning devices in Walmart, for example? They're kind of everywhere. It's because people don't want to ask the question. So if
Right.
we can figure out that people don't want to ask the question, just like in any marketing lesson, we give them the answer before they even come up with the objection, then they're a happy customer or they're a happy client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's a great, well, and that's, I think, the biggest challenge in marketing is always coming up with those questions.
Mm.
So so just some advice for some people, how would they what would be some questions that they could ask or start thinking about their clients' needs before they even know what their needs are?
First of all, just blatantly ask if you have clients that you do have a good relationship with already. Ask them if they wouldn't mind if you asked them, can I check in with you? Because I trust you to be honest with me. We have that relationship. I'm so confused about whether I should sell right now or whether I should market or what it is that my clients want to hear. Could we get on the phone for 5 minutes and could I ask you these questions? And I think that's key because we seem to feel like we'll look bad or we need to dance around the subject too much.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas so many people love giving their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the big one, really. Surveys might be like, there are certain types of personalities, and I'm one of them. Sometimes I love being on live with people, talking on the phone, Zooming, etc. And then sometimes if you actually pick up the phone and call me, freaks me out. If I see the phone ring and I'm in the wrong headspace to take a call, I will not answer the phone.
Right.
And so maybe also do a survey for people who like to really think about their answers. And there's a personality type that likes to fill out forms. Give them the option of saying, maybe you email all your clients and say, here's a 5-minute survey. I'm hoping you wouldn't mind answering, but if you prefer to pick up the phone and call, I would love to hear from you. And here's maybe a little link where you can book, that 5 to 15-minute call with me, just to A, catch up, and B, I'd love to hear what you think about this.
Right. I love that. Thanks for that great reminder. Yeah, I think I find a lot of people just they're pushing out programs and offerings that aren't in alignment even with what their clients want, and they're wondering why they can't sell it.
Yeah.
So
I'll push and let people
Mhm.
pair up with you instead of doing that push.
Yeah.
And it works a lot better.
Well, I think it's a great reminder too, because I know from my own experience, I've had clients who've been with me for 8, 9, 10 years, and they're just like, I love being a part of the journey, right? They love being a part of the evolution. And let your clients be in that space with you, and then there's the people who really just come for the service and they come and go. But yeah, it's delicious to me. It just makes me so happy when my clients are like, I really want to know, how are things? Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Or, what are you creating? What's next? Right? I have clients who even say to me that I'm like, oh, well, I haven't even thought about that yet. Right? And they're just like, oh my God, I'm so excited about the next thing. Right? So
yeah, like people love being a part of building something new. And if it makes sense for you to include them, I say do it.
Well, again, it goes back to to experiment together, right? I think that's, to me, that's what I'm taking away from. That's the theme.
Because it's like no one's ever been here before. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
literally
Yeah, and everybody's in the same boat right now. So it's a great opportunity to really check in with people, and people want to be a part of something, so let them feel inclusive, right? And that's really part of the feminine way of being too, is that community oriented, palpable community of inclusion.
Mhm.
So yeah, have the conversations. And I'm actually finding people are actually answering the phone when I call,
Right.
not necessarily going to voicemail. I think that's definitely a shift because we've gone so much dependent on, voicemail. And I know some people who don't even have voicemail activated on their phone. They've even been taking that away,
Yeah.
so, but I think, we are going back to some ways of deeper communication.
hmm I think, again, we have to really respect how whomever you're talking to in that moment wants to be communicated with. I have some clients who are really similar to me, and we like to message each other over having a live conversation sometimes. It's easier to express ourselves that
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And that's, again, knowing who your clients are. I
Yeah.
think one of my big learnings is, as I've been talking with people, it's like, how has your landscape changed,
hmm
in this pandemic, and in your experience of business? And almost everyone in my circles, they're all, and even in our conversation, is I'm more of an introvert. This is really nothing new for me. I've been taking clients online for a long time. I've lived at home, or I live a quieter, more solitude-like life. So the isolation or the social distancing part really isn't that different.
Right.
Um, how's your landscape changed? Has it changed at all? I know you talked a little bit about going more online with Myers Norris Penny, but
hmm
has it changed or shifted in any other aspects?
Not hugely. I mean, more recently, again, I mean, I have an office on and off where we can, the team can gather, or I can go and just get a change of pace and interact with other people. But I was finding I could only really go a couple times a week anyway because of meetings and other things. So as far as how I get work done, that's completely the same. As
Mm-hmm.
far as not having to drive across town to sit down for a coffee,
Mm-hmm.
loving that actually.
Yeah.
Again, only because I feel like we're more focused
Yes.
and we're not wasting time, because time is literally the only thing that we all have that's the same, and we can waste it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had a couple clients have to rein back. We actually had a client decide it was the best thing for their company, this health and safety of their employees, to shut the doors for a little while. And so those things are happening still. But at the same time, we had a client that we started talking to well before this say, okay, we really need that website now because, oh my God, we have to communicate
Right. Yeah.
more than we ever did. And our once a week social media post is not cutting it anymore. So can you
Mm-hmm.
get that up for us really fast? So it's still all over the place. But I
Mm-hmm.
can say that the last minute changes
Mm-hmm.
in relation to what's going on and how do we physically distance workers and employees and clients, that is still changing on almost a daily basis with our clients, which causes us to have to go, okay, where do we post that, and how do we present this and make sure that people still feel like they're being served.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
that's a daily. Yeah.
Well, I think too, it's been interesting going to some of the stores, where, they first laid out just tape, and then now I'm seeing them with a little bit more branded, floor signs of,
Yeah.
social distance 2 meters, all right, or stand here when you're waiting for the till. I've been in some stores where you literally can go up and down the aisles,
Yeah.
like different way, you can only go one way.
Yeah.
Um, which I have found a bit irritating because I'm just like, but I'm here and I need that, right? And it's just like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah. I actually kind of like the one-way system,
Mm,
only because I found that before all of this, a lot of people would just leave their carts in the middle of the aisle, and you
really?
couldn't get by. Yeah, and you
I've
couldn't
never
get
had that
by.
happen.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I would sit there and patiently wait. And I don't know if you do this too, but when you're out and about and you're in public, you know how to shield yourself energetically.
Mhm.
And so I do that as well. And sometimes I'm not very visible. And so
Mm.
I have to wait longer or suddenly need to go completely the opposite and then turn into that aggressive train and
Mm.
sort of really speak loudly, which I don't enjoy doing.
Mm.
And it's just like, oh, this one way solves everything.
Well,
Except for,
I've
yeah, it's
always
back
been
there
a
and I want
person,
it
like,
right.
I go in off hours. Like, I've always been a
Yeah.
grocery shopper, like, late at night because nobody's really
Yeah.
there anyway, and I always
Mhm.
find that the produce is being stocked at that time. And I get it. I mean, again, I don't have a family, I don't have kids to, manage all that time, but I do find, like, it's very productive for me to go grocery shopping at 9 or 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
you know? And it's very different now. There's so many different changes, but it is kind of cool. It's interesting to see how quickly businesses are actually, it's one step at a time. It is coming back to that experiment of, well, what are other people doing? How is this going to happen? What can we do right now? We have a quick fix. And then as it kind of goes on, people are like, okay, well, we need to actually create something a little bit more structured, a little
Mhm.
bit more branded, a little bit more specific. So I think there's lots of opportunities for different industries right now, and we're really, really starting to see that. So I do believe there's great creativity that can still take shape.
I think so too.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're
So do
just
you have like a favorite quote or anything that kind of stands out to you or that you kind of live by?
Um, I started saying this little thing in my head when I was a kid. I don't actually remember where it came from. And I just recognized that if I was patient, and if I really, really, really wanted something, that eventually it would happen, whatever that was. But those were the two conditions. I had to really want it, not just, hey, I want a cookie, but I had to really, truly want it, and I would have to be patient. So I would always just say, patience pays. And I would
Mm,
just remind myself to be patient. It's like,
yeah,
I'll get that bike, I will get that whatever it is I'm wishing for, right?
yeah,
So,
patient.
yeah.
Well, and I think that's so timely right now too, right? Patience.
Hmm.
It's not about the race. It's just about patience and it'll happen.
Yeah, right now it's like where we have nowhere to race to for the
Mhm.
first time.
Yep.
And it's interesting that I can't imagine not being able to calm myself down,
Right.
right? Because I think we all are a little bit anxious about what's going to happen. Nobody really knows.
Hmm.
But the only thing that I'm kind of alarmed about is how normal things and messages online and on TV have become already. We
Mm,
are so used to seeing certain types of messages in commercials right now that it's feels normal.
hmm.
And it's just I don't want any of this to be normal. I
Mm-mm.
like the online zooming a little bit more. I
Yeah.
like the phone calls a little bit more, but I was already pushing towards that. But
Hmm.
I don't think it's normal to I don't want it to be normal for people to feel like they have to stay at home and feel like
Yeah.
they have to isolate. They
Hmm.
they don't feel safe. Like
Yeah.
that I do
Definitely don't
not
want
want to see.
them not feeling safe out and about
Yeah.
outside of their home. Yeah. There's lots of benefits to this also, but that is one of the big fears. And I do see it with some people where, I see the panic, like I just see their terror and their panic. And that's part of the trauma that people are going to be experiencing through this as well. That's a
Yeah.
whole another
Yeah.
topic of conversation. Um, yeah, any other words of wisdom or advice or anything else you'd like to share today?
I think now is a really great time. Like if you and I are both in business and that seems to, a lot of our conversations center around that. Right now is such a great time to ask with no fear. Talk to experts in any of the areas that you've been meaning to get to. If you were thinking about SEO, if you were thinking about social media, if you were thinking about anything in relation to growing your business, now it's a great time to just have a conversation. Everyone welcomes it. We
Mm-hmm.
just marketers want to be helpful because that's I
Mm-hmm.
think the most the most foundational thing about marketers is we want to see things work for our clients
Mm-hmm.
because that's what excites us. That's why we're doing it in the first place. We need to see that it works, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so right now we're so welcoming people who will listen because
Mm-hmm.
on a good day, how it is. Sometimes you get people who walk through your door and they say they want help, but they won't listen and they won't do, and they're probably just scared. but they're not following through, and that makes it really challenging to help them. Right now is such a great time to ask these questions because you have more time available on both ends. And the things that we're talking about even today in marketing, I mean, I'm, all over tons of different webinars from some very, very senior global people that are saying, yeah, we are still moving through this and we still don't know what this is going to look like in the end. But we need to make sure that wherever we're pivoting to, that is the buzzword, whatever we're pivoting to today, we also need to look beyond that and look long term. It cannot be a short-term, short-sighted thing. It needs to play into our end goals, and that goes back to our values and what the business was all about in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All really important. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you so much, Trina. As always, I enjoy our time so much. Lots of beautiful pieces and takeaways from this conversation. To our viewers, thanks for watching, and I hope you find some value, and I would love for you to continue the conversation. Post in the comments below what inspired you, and please share it out to your community so that we can continue to bring light, hope, and love to the world. Until next time, abundant love. Thank you.